let's go to my next guest. We are joined in the after hours, Sarah Bils. Sarah Bils, host of DD Geopolitics, a fantastic site, by the way. Everybody should check it out. How are you doing, Sarah? You doing all right?
Good. How are you?
I am doing fine. It's later in the evening or later in the morning.
Yeah,
I know you're in California,
this is
so
much
this is early
better.
for you. Yeah. Well, I didn't have a show yesterday, and so I was trying to do an extended show today. I'm even going to try to get Miranda to come on later in the day to give the audience what they want. Give the audience.
Yeah, they want that.
Yeah, it's like dance for them, dance.
Yeah.
How are you doing this morning? All good?
Yeah, we're good. How are you?
So far, so good. I saw the Turkish protests. I'm fascinated by the Turkish protests because, from my point of view, and maybe from the America's point of view, maybe I'm extending it too far, right? I should keep it to my own point of view. Erdogan is a strong man. Erdogan is in control. Erdogan runs the government of Turkey. Erdogan has political opposition, locks up his political opposition, and all hell breaks loose. The court is unraveled, and mass protests taking place in Istanbul and other areas of Turkey. Is Erdogan's position of power under challenge at this moment?
I don't think so.
That's
I don't think so. I'm not an Erdogan. I'm not pro Erdogan. I'm not necessarily anti Erdogan. But this guy can't run anymore. The opposition cannot run anymore legally. So I don't.
Well, wait.
I'm not
he
really.
Can't run legally because they put him in a jail.
Well, because they rescinded his degree. Now, I haven't looked into why they rescinded the degree. It has to do with it's something to do with the previous university in Cyprus, something with the Cypriot university. I haven't looked into much, but if you don't hold a degree, you cannot hold office in Turkey, and you can't even run for president. So he can't run anymore. This guy's kind of a neocon. He's a Western kind of not really a shill. He's not really too propped up by Westerners, but he's a secularist. He is an Atlanticist. He is a NATOist, and so he would be bringing Turkey further into the fold of the West.
Yes.
I don't
By
know.
The way, I'm not saying he's a good guy. I'm just saying.
No. I know. I don't think that Erdogan's in danger of being overturned yet. The protests don't really have very much traction. A lot of the footage we're getting from there is we're in the age of it is AI or old footage mixed with AI to make it look. It's it's been very difficult to report on, like the cool Pikachu Joker picture. That's AI. That's not even real. So it's like you don't really have a really clear grasp on what's happening. Plus, it's not being reported by the media, probably because either they don't care, they don't want Erdogan to be overthrown, or because it's still kind of a nothing burger. I don't think I want Erdogan to be overthrown. So it might be my bias or hopefulness showing through. I don't want more instability in the region. And I think that getting rid of Erdogan, someone who's been in place for such a long time and is almost an institution on himself, would throw that entire region into absolute chaos, especially what's going on with Syria. So that kind of gives me a little bit of pause to say, what are the forces that are behind this sort of uprising? Is it organic? Why am I seeing so many American-inspired flags? Why am I seeing so many kind of Eurocentric sort of things happening? A lot of gay pride stuff, which is not Turkey. Not that I care, but it's just not Turkey. It feels very forced. The Pikachu stuff felt very commercial, which, I mean, we all love Pikachu. I mean, Pikachu was real. He was at the protest. Sure, it was adorable, but I felt like that felt a little bit like, and just some of the ideas that are being espoused, I'm like, this feels a little inauthentic. I don't know how to explain it. So I've been trying to observe at at an arm's length, and you really can't get too much cohesive messaging out of the opposition. It's just kind of Erdogan should go, but we don't really understand what their platform is or what their plans are or what they would do if Erdogan was gone. So it's not really cohesive yet. But again, there's still a lot of time for them to develop into something.
His polling over the course of the various elections have gotten weaker.
Yeah.
He, like you said, he's an institution in himself. I don't know what Turkey is without Erdogan, if I'm being bluntly honest with you. I don't know if anybody does, to be truly honest. He has been a force in that region. He is cagey as all hell. He is like, if you're talking about somebody who can maybe Netanyahu is the only other person who I've seen cling to political power in the way that Erdogan has, with a caginess in order to do so. And by the way, I'm not saying these things are positive. I'm just saying these things are effective.
Yeah, they're just real.
He's functioned. Yeah, he's been able to effectively balance Russia against the U.S. or Russia against the West and do this dance where neither can trust him, short of what does Erdogan want? That's
right.
trust. He's going to go to what he wants. The opposition itself. Okay, fair enough. If some of those protests are manufactured, Erdogan's power base, though, is not in Istanbul. It's in the other regions.
Yeah, he's more so favored in the rural regions. This is a very metropolitan, urban sort of uprising. I don't want to say uprising. It's not really like that violent protest.
Just protests.
Yeah.
He has been locking up opposition. I guess my thing is, and I guess my major question is this a threat to power? And I guess your answer is, at this point, no.
No, but it could be. I mean, all that needs to happen is somebody with really vested interests that are anti-Erdogan to get seriously involved. I mean, there's plenty of time for them to be co-opted. It's not out of the realm of possibility. And as we get closer and closer to the election, especially with Imamoglu, he won resoundingly the recent election for his party lead. Things will probably get a lot hotter as we get closer to the presidential election, because without him being disqualified, he's the nominee and he's polling much higher than Erdogan. So once we get closer to the election, it could potentially be explosive.
When is the election, by the way?
Let's find out. I don't remember. I know that they just had one not too long ago.
So they have a while.
It also seems 2028.
Okay.
So they do have a while. But they can also do snap elections because they're under a parliamentary system. So that's also possible if Erdogan was to lose his majority or his coalition in the parliament. But they're fighting in the parliament too. I think there's a very large divide over how they handled the Israel-Palestine conflict. I think they were one of the only parties that were really in a position to make a serious change, and they didn't. In fact, Erdogan pushed more ships to go to Israel. I don't think that really went over that well, especially given the amount of refugees that are in Turkey. You also have the Syrian refugee problem, and Turkey has not done anything to fix what the issues are in Syria. So those people cannot go home, even though he's forced a large number to go home to another unstable country. So it's hard to tell what's going on or what will go on, since there's so much time between now and the potential elections, and we don't know if the government will fall apart. There's also nobody. It doesn't seem that anybody's really coming to Erdogan's aid like they did in the last attempted coup. What was that, 2018, something like that? And Russia really did come to their aid, but that was to have a "you owe me" one. And I don't think that they're going to come this time. I really don't. I don't know who would come to save him. This guy seems like he would enjoy embrace from the EU. So I don't think that Erdogan will see support from anybody, really. He's not a friend to the Islamic world. The Turkic states and in the Neo-Ottoman Empire have no power. There's not a lot of leverage. The location of Turkey is what gives it its power. Right. Its location will always give it a tremendous amount of power. Even when their currency is in free fall, they still have a tremendous amount of power, which it's in free fall again, which is probably being done on purpose. But they have a tremendous amount of power. And just like you mentioned, Erdogan's probably one of the only people that knows really how to wield that in a way that's advantageous to himself and to his country. I don't think that Turks know how bad it can be. It can get very, very bad for them if they get co-opted into the EU, if they get further westernized. They'll be forced to do things they've never even imagined. Like, it's just, it's like you don't know what you got till it's gone, just like Syria next door.
Well, the EU doesn't seem to want them. They've been knocking on that door for like 20 years.
Right.
And
but now with they're opening up more doors to Balkan Muslim majority countries. So I don't know for much longer they can hold out on Turkey. Plus, if they get this kind of neocon, neo-lib guy in there, it might make a stronger case. I always say, like, Turkey's too brown for the EU and too white for Sisto. So they're kind of stuck in this weird purgatory. This guy could potentially help them kind of jump that hurdle because he's so amicable to the West. He's like Annalena Baerbock in a guy. Like, he's pretty liberal. He's pretty liberal.
Oh, she's so attractive and so nuts. And I know I gotta stop saying that because they're like, oh, he's so sexist. She's God, man. There's something about her that I think is so attractive, but she's nuts. Wow. I mean, she is a lunatic in regards to, more war. I don't care what the Germans want. We're going to fight the Russians and all of this other nonsense. I want to move to another issue real quick. I did not know about this until Malou pointed this out. Israel is once again bombing Beirut.
As we speak.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is coming out of the blue to me.
Yeah.
And just so the audience knows, there are people in those buildings.
Yeah.
It's not like they're doing this as a demolition. They're killing people. CBS News, weirdly enough, reported that Israel was using people as human shields and that they were ordered. Right here. Here's the story, which, again, we knew about this. Mm-hmm. I'm more shocked that CBS is reporting this now. Israeli soldier tells CBS he was ordered to use Palestinians as human shields in Gaza. And the reporting is that Israel is going back in Gaza for another military campaign.
Yeah.
What is going on here? Is this purely because Netanyahu is under, let's say, legal pressure, or they're trying to put him in a cage at this point? And there was a story, God, man, that was reporting about the corruption that Netanyahu with the Qataris. What is going on here? Why this reinvigoration of the war against Lebanon? I mean, you can't even say Hezbollah at this point because Hezbollah has been decapitated. Against Lebanon, Syria, and now going back in Gaza. What is going on?
I think that a lot of it is pushing the limit, seeing how far they can go. They've also been given pretty much carte blanche from the Trump administration. They've said more than once, we will give them the tools that they need to complete the job. They also said, give back the hostages. Both Caroline Leavitt and Trump said, or all hell will break loose. The hostages, according to Israel. For me, I'm at the point where I'm like, I don't even know if half these hostages exist. But for Israel, and for all intents and purposes, the hostages have not been returned, and now all hell is breaking loose. I don't think that it's because of internal strife inside of Israel. I think that it's because they're unable to do so. They have, the United States bombing Yemen at their behest. That's not for us. That's not for ships in the Red Sea. That's for Israel. That's to try to provoke Iran. We have 2 carrier groups out there to try to get one of them hit so we can go into war with Iran for Israel. 7 countries in 5 years plan has not gone away just because it's been longer than 5 years. Syria has fallen. That was the second to last one. And then even when General Wesley Clark said it, he said, and finally, Iran, because they knew that Iran would be the hardest and the toughest, and they're all gone, and Iran is all that's left. That's a very scary situation that we're in. I don't know that people other than Middle Easterners, I don't know if Americans understand what's really going on or if they care. But Israel will continue to do what it's allowed to do until somebody stops it. And the United States has shown that they will not stop it. And then being the only one that has the power to do so, this doesn't look like it's ending until Israel wants it to end.
So I was looking for the Wesley Clark clip that you were talking about right here. As you say, I don't know if most Americans know that Wesley Clark said this, and it is a crime against media that they don't, because it's a big deal about this notion of, yeah, we're going to go into all of these countries within the course of 7 years. And as you point out, it doesn't matter the president. The president seemed irrelevant in this.
Yeah.
Whether it was Obama, whether it was Bush, whether it was Trump, whether it was Joe Biden, the pressure was still on, even, in fact, let me play the clip first, just so the audience knows what we're talking about and referring to. The plan, according to Wesley Clark. Come on.
About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who had used to work for me. And one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, No. He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." So I came back to see him a few weeks later. And by that time, we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs," meaning the Secretary of Defense office today. And he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran."
Go through the countries again.
Well, starting with Iraq, then Syria and Lebanon, then Libya, then Somalia and Sudan.
That was General Wesley Clark. 1 second. I need to find it. There we go. Sarah, I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. I didn't know if I was supposed to monologue.
No, you're fine. That was General Wesley Clark. You're gonna monologue. It's like, I am now taking over the show.
Yeah, it's me now.
So yeah, that was Wesley Clark pointing out. And by the way, John Kiriakou has said something very similar to that. What John pointed out when I was talking to him, that he was sitting at a meeting, and what is his name? Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney was like, "Yeah, we're gonna, be in Iran within a few weeks." And John's boss killed his mic and turned to him and said, "Did he say we're going to be in Iran?" John says, "Yes." And he says, "Okay," turn the mic back on and sat back in the meeting. And everybody in the meeting was like, okay, Cheney's out of his mind. Now, they got bogged down in Iraq, so they weren't able to necessarily get to Iran. I don't think they fully understand that Iran is a different animal. And oddly enough, I get the sense that the context of the world is going to be decided, weirdly enough, in this administration, on whether or not they actually make that decision to try to go into Iran, where all hell breaks loose and the world becomes a clarified thing, once again, depending upon the context of that war, every bit as much as a Ukraine war has taken place. Do you really think the Trump administration would destroy his administration and do that on behalf of Israel?
Yes.
Do you?
Yeah.
Sarah, that's terrifying.
The amount of money that they've poured into the Trump campaign and administration, this administration has already shown to be that they have no qualms about behaving unadministratively. Like, they're leaking messages, they're posting cartoons online. It's madness. I don't think that they have very many hesitations to do whatever they want. I mean, they've deployed 18 tankers and 17 B-2s to Diego Garcia. That is an unprecedented deployment. If this is just a show of force, which, I mean, I would hope that foreign policy experts understand that Iran doesn't really react to a showing of force. This is a deployment. We have 2 carrier groups out there. Nobody can convince me otherwise that they're not sitting there hoping to get hit or hoping to at least be shot at in order to get this ball kind of rolling. I do think they would bomb at least the nuclear sites in Iran. They're already pushing the currency to the limit, to its breaking point. I do think that they would bomb the nuclear power plants, absolutely, to turn the population against the government even further.
That wouldn't turn the population against the government.
No, but they think it will. They think that sanctions and, they do this. It's like, it's the definition of insanity. More sanctions for Russia, more sanctions for Iran. Blah, blah,
do they say that, or do they actually believe that? Because those are 2 different things. Meaning, I can come with a justification for something. Doesn't mean the justification is true, or for that matter, that I believe it.
Have you looked at our SecDef? I mean, he's got a tattoo that says, I'm an enemy of Islam. He's not dying, chomping at the bit to bomb the Islamic Republic at all. Like, these people are rabid anti-Muslims. Rabid. They are rabid Zionists, rabid Christian Zionists. And the other dude is married to an Indian. And we all know that vice president is married to an Indian. We all know that India's strong affinity for Israel. I'm not saying that marrying an Indian is a bad thing. She's beautiful. Yeah. But they naturally have affinity to Israel. They always support Israel. JD Vance's only issue is with the Ukraine war. These people think that these people are anti-war. They're not anti-war. They're anti-war that doesn't help them, that isn't advantageous to them. JD Vance thinks that Iran will be advantageous to the United States. That's probably what they're going to do. I don't see any other option. And, once this doesn't work, hopefully this can be the end of the road, because it's getting out of hand.
I could be wrong. I think the war with Ukraine changed the context of the world in a way that we don't go back, maybe 50 years, give or take. No. Russia's a power at this point. You had a 1 million-man military that's been killing and dying for 3 years that Europe in no way can stand up to, even if they wanted to. It would take decades for them to get a military capacity to match Russia's at this point. That is something that is a fixed quantity going forward in our world. And I strongly suspect that if the U.S. does this, we will destroy. This notion of being a hegemon will be over. Because from my point of view, it's one thing. I always make this argument that, I still look from Game of Thrones, but it's a fantastic quote, that power is a shadow on the wall. People respond to power, whether it's there or not, because they think it's there. And the U.S. can take this position as a hegemon as long as you don't try to do anything that a hegemon may be able to do and fail at it. We have dumped hundreds of billions of dollars into a war against Russia and lost. Mm-hmm. And the notion that you lose one war and immediately go into another war.
But the way that we're functioning now is that it's like, that wasn't us. That was the last admin. If we would have been here, that would have never happened.
It's still the U.S.
But that they don't see it that way. I'm not kidding. I've talked to many Americans and I've told them the same thing. I'm saying, the people in the international community don't view this as like a new dawn or a new beginning for America. It's still America. And they are very convinced that this new administration means like, we are a new country now. We have and it's just like, that's not really how it works. And that's what's kind of scary, is that this administration thinks that there was a huge hard system reset when they were inaugurated, and that they can end the policies of the last admin on a dime, and that they can begin their own policies. They're not anti-war. They're anti-Biden war. They want their own thing. That's what's scary about America. Putin and Russian officials have been alluding to this over and over again. They've said things to the effect of, why would we get into a treaty with an administration that's going to change in 4 years and the whole thing could be thrown back into war? America's not a trustable partner. They're not a trustable ally. And again, and just like they said, they're fickle. They change every 4 years, 8 at maximum.
Trump's policies, believe it or not, are not that radically different from Joe Biden's.
Not at all.
In fact, what it made me realize was that these were the only options that Biden had at his disposal based upon the rules that the Biden created. And that Trump is stuck with a very similar rule set. I'll give you an example. In Gaza, for example, the Biden administration wanted to get rid of the Palestinians either into Egypt or, for the matter, Jordan, like the West Bank and the Jordan, the Gaza into Egypt. Both countries said no, kick rocks. Trump comes in, tries to do the exact same thing. And you think to yourself, okay, well, why is Trump administration trying to do the same thing that the Biden administration did? Because that's the only options they had based upon the rule set that they were effectively given. Same thing with Yemen. Okay, what are we going to do about Yemen and the Red Sea? Oh, I know, let's bomb them. Okay, well, Joe Biden bombed them. That didn't work. The Saudis bombed them. That didn't work. And yet you're using the exact same policy that didn't work the first time around. And so it's like you ask this question of like, okay, well, why is Donald Trump, supposedly a new administration, effectively following in the footsteps of Joe Biden? And I think it kind of writes itself. I don't know what's going on.
You getting bombed?
I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on upstairs. It's like he's talking about Russia.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Get him.
And when you look at Iran and the Biden administration, who didn't go back to the JCPOA, by the way, and I guess what does it matter? Trump would have pulled out even if he did go back. And you have Trump sending threats. We will bomb you in 2 months, or we will do whatever in 2 months. Nobody has outed the letter yet, in its exact phrasing. But you get Iran sending a letter back through Oman, which again, nobody knows, but saying we are willing to negotiate in a third party de facto way. Okay, does that mean that there are negotiations taking place behind the scenes that Iran doesn't necessarily want to out? You don't think so?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I do think so. Yeah. There's definitely back channels that are open right now between most states, I would think.
Is the back channel enough to prevent a war? I guess that's the large question. And
I
guess
know a war is preventable. I just don't see a situation where we don't bomb Iran, at least one site in Iran. I mean,
are you serious?
Yeah.
I hope you're wrong.
I do too.
It's like, I know with Kim Jong-un, Donald Trump, the reason I don't know is because Trump is unpredictable in this stuff. Like, he was willing to go with the Rocket Man stuff, and yet goes to North Korea, shakes his hand, signs the deal. I don't know if all of those tankers are out there as a pressure campaign of we will attack you if you don't negotiate with us. And Iran is like, dude, I can't negotiate with you under these terms. Behind the scenes, though, okay, we're willing to negotiate. I don't know if it's that or if it's, no, we are actually going to attack, in which case we're building up a force in that area in order to do so, or to have a tripwire where you hit us. Which I don't know why the U.S. would think that. Like, I don't know why the U.S. would think that Iran would hit a tanker, knowing full well what that means if indeed they hit that tanker.
No, they've just iterated more than once that if Ansarallah does, then they're blaming Iran. So I also we still haven't gotten like a clear message on what the outcome of the United States-Russia talks with that one chunk that said Russia agrees that Iran should never find itself in a place where it could potentially destroy Israel. Does that mean that they don't want Iran to have nukes? Is that misinterpreted? Is that a mistranslation? What did that mean? This was a very odd thing. And now we're going back to the age-old story that we always do. Iran's only a week away from a nuke.
Yeah.
That came out yesterday, I think, or the day before. So, yeah. I mean, they've been a week away from a nuke since I was
20
like
years.
15.
Yeah.
So,
no, literally, I could show you the picture of Netanyahu in the Senate or the House giving a speech like 20 years ago where it's this cartoonish bomb, and he's like, they're weeks away.
Yeah.
Iran is going to get the bomb.
So we'll see what the messaging is. I mean, we've got so much. I mean, Peter Coffin was just here talking about the domestic issues. We've got so much going on that the last thing that we need is a bombing run into Iran, especially since we have an enormous Iranian diaspora. Who the hell knows what the hell they would react? It's a very tenuous situation. But again, we talked about it earlier. Israel is in a war on three sides of their own doing, voluntarily, and they're keeping it going. So we are already dealing with very irrational actors.
Sarah, I always appreciate you.
This was a little bit of a black pill. I'm sorry.
No, you're perfectly fine. Black pills are fine. It's just, it is deeply unfortunate if that's indeed what they end up doing. It'll give us something to talk about, unfortunately.
Well, I'm a Slav. I prepare for the worst. I'm always prepared for the worst.
Sarah Bils, DD Geopolitics. Sarah, where can people find you, by the way?
Just find us at ddgeopolitics.com. We should be releasing the footage of our recent video or visit to Donbass and the Zaporozhye power plant. So that should be sort of interesting, kind of see what's going on. While we were there, Ukraine actually tried to bomb it. So that's still going on. It's good to know that they're acting very rationally out in Ukraine. But yeah, so just check us out at ddgeopolitics.com. We're around. You guys
Can you give us anything about that going to Donbass? What was that like?
I didn't go on this trip, but my partner did. They went to Melitopol and Zaporozhye, and he said it was a very, very, very tough trip. I suggest you guys give him a shout, but he said it was very, very tough. He's still recovering. It's been like 3 or 4 days, and he said it was a really difficult trip.
Oh, just to get there.
Just to get there, and then emotionally while you're there, you're dealing. They're very immersed in the local population, so they're talking to people all the time. It's very emotionally draining. Yeah. And they were inside of the plant for a very long time, interviewing the plant operators and everything. So
these were people that were effectively being bombed by the Ukrainian government.
Yeah.
I've met one person. Wow. I've met one person that was in that bombing. I met her before I got into politics. And I didn't know the significance of the conversation that I was having with her at the time. I'm I'm from the South. I talk to anybody. And I remember my ex-wife and I went on a trip to, I think it was South Carolina. And one of the shop owners was Eastern Ukrainian. And she says, the bombings that are taking place, she said, I speak Russian. She was very sheepish about it, right? Because she didn't know what my point of view was. I didn't have a point of view because at the time I wasn't all that into politics. And she says, yeah, the bombings, she said, I have family members. My mom is at a bomb shelter. She's been there for a long period of time.
They live there. They live in the bomb shelters. They live underground.
Yeah. She said they would go out to get food, come back.
That's
in
it.
the bomb shelters. She said they kill my teachers, they kill family members. Mm-hmm. She said, I speak Russian. I just want this conflict to end. I don't care about the politics. This is outrageous. I want it to stop. So,
well, sentiment for Trump is very bad amongst the Russians and the Ukrainians. So that we have ruined our soft power on the populations of both Ukraine and Russia.
Even with Trump trying to end it.
Yeah, they hate Trump. They don't want to end it because they don't think that the goals have been achieved. It's funny because more than one person in Russia has, when I was there the last time, said if Putin even tried to end this war right now, it wouldn't matter. We would just keep going. We would just keep going in Ukraine. We're not done.
Somebody else told me that. Was it you that told me that?
I don't know.
But their thing is we want the special military operation to be completed in full. Period.
Full. All goals complete, especially after what happened in Kursk. There's a lot of dead civilians there. Children, civilians. It's bad. So,
from my understanding, there are mass graves in the area, and Russia is talking about war crimes that Kiev committed in Kursk. And look, you can understand why. You have Nazis going into Russian territory. What do you think is going to happen? Right? Sarah Bils, she is independent journalist, U.S. Navy veteran, and co-founder of DD Geopolitics. Check them out. They do damn good